If you're a musician in the Mid-Atlantic region, then you don't want to miss Springboard East August 12th through 15th, a 3-day music industry workshop designed to help independent artists take the next step in their careers. Held in Washington, D.C., Springboard East brings together artists with music industry professionals from across the country, including music supervisors seeking new music for film and TV. Attendees can participate in educational workshops, network with fellow artists and industry leaders, pitch their music directly to music supervisors, and explore a trade show featuring local music businesses and organizations. Then to wrap it all up, on Saturday, there's a music festival featuring 35 incredible artists. And there are still a few spots left for performers, so make sure to apply to perform today. Springboard East is brought to you by the DMV Music Alliance with support from LJR Creative, Pixeltone, David Johnson, The Musicianship, and the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. Springboard East is August 12th through 15th in Washington, D.C. Get your tickets today and learn more at springboardeast.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab Podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Today, real honored and privileged to have Mr. Barry Coffing join us on the Music Lab Podcast. Welcome, Barry.
Well, thanks for having me, Dogg. I just like saying that. Dog.
All the way from Houston,
Dog.
Texas.
Dog.
The dog. How's the weather today, my friend?
It was beautiful today, but I was inside working or I was in the pool. So those are about the only two ways to be. In the air conditioning, in the pool, not a problem.
No.
Every place else, not so sure.
So a man that wears a lot of hats, but somehow you've never lost your head. Talk about how that's happened.
That's first off, I have lost my head. No one was there to witness it, Yeah, it's a little much. You would think I would, be a little smarter than I am, but no. But I do a bunch of crazy stuff, and I've got more crazy things that I'm doing. I think the good thing is I love what I'm doing, and so I don't feel like it's work, so I can do a lot more of it than you would do in a normal job.
So, where did this drive come from? Not just necessarily from music, but just drive in general. Like, do you think that came from your parents? Did it come from your upbringing? Did it come from living in Houston? Where did that drive come from?
I think I've always been delusional party of one. I think that, there are some natural tendencies I have. It's a little bit the imagination kind of crazy thing. I've always spent about 50% of my time in the future, the dream world that is yet to be. And so that enables it gives me my energy and enables me to maybe go through current times that aren't as good, with the vision of what it will be like in the future.
So when did you start playing your first instrument? At what age?
Well, my family, everybody could sing. So my mom and my dad were singers. My brother and my sister were singers. Like when we were driving, it's like, which part do you want? Happy Birthday was a 4-part experience. And my mom did classical, light opera stuff and things like that. My dad was in a mixed race doo-wop band in the 50s, which you can imagine that was fun, And so we had everything from her having the Hair soundtrack and Peter, Paul, and Mary, protest stuff. And then my dad bought the first Barry White record on an 8-track, driving his Lincoln with a porn stash, So we grew up in a diverse set of things. And then my brother, sister, and I all went to the high school for the performing and visual arts in Houston. We were born in Ohio, and then my parents graduated class of 60, and they thought that happiness was a place. So 16 schools later, I made it through high school. It was like they were always searching for it. We didn't exactly find it, but we did look in Indiana, Florida, Ohio, and obviously ultimately Texas. And then I ran off to LA for 20 years. So I've kind of skipped around a little bit.
Yeah. So, in high school then, did you know at that point, what you wanted to do kind of with your career, or when did you kind of finally decide what you wanted to do?
It was so weird because everybody else went to college. I had an opera scholarship to Juilliard, which we couldn't afford to do. It wasn't a full one, So I ended up doing an opera scholarship at HBU in Houston, and they were tied in with the Houston Grand Opera and stuff. And I didn't love opera like that. I could do it, because of the school, they'd go, oh, we're going to sing in Latin, or something like that. I'm going, dude, I can sight read in Latin. And by the time they tortured us in school, like, we're all going, cum sancto spiritu, let's do it, baby, And so that wasn't anything special. And I started playing in bands on the weekend. And then, of course, as a freshman, my voice lesson was at 9 a.m. on Monday, which was what they give to the freshmen. And they said, look, man, either you quit singing the rock and roll crap or we're going to take your scholarship. And I told them they could keep it, nicely, but and I also fought with all my music theory teachers. Like, we'd be doing theory and they'd do a string quartet, but you can't go past a German sixth. And I'm going, forget that. I was putting sevens, nines, I was doing all kinds of, and I'd put it out on my synth. I would play it out on a really lame synth, and I'd get the bad grade. Going, that guy's thing's shitty. Did you hear mine? And you gave me? You didn't follow directions. I'm going, there's no rules for music. So I didn't fit. Like, college was great. I tried it several times. Did not take for me. And so I ended up playing in bands, and I didn't know what I was going to be when I grow up. And about 3 years in, I went, I think you're doing it. You're actually making a living playing 5 nights a week in a club. So this might be, you might have found your calling.
Was that kind of a life lesson that you learned then that you kind of still take with you today?
A little bit. It's the number of things that when I graduated high school, you said, you're going to do this, 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 and this, and you have to sell your soul for it. I'd have signed up for it. Of course, then once you do it, you're going, oh, there's so much more. And I wish you move the goalpost, but, I'm an Emmy loser. I've written #1 hits around the world. I've done all these other crazy things. I did not become the rock star I intended, but boy, what a ride,
So so we go from college to, what was our first job in the industry? Like, was our, got our feet wet in this business that we love?
I was gigging. I played in all kinds of different bands. So by the time, I was like 20, by the time I was 21, I was cruising. I had tried a bunch of other jobs, retail. I was a nighttime security guard, and I got in trouble I created a wind sound to put it over the intercom at the whole factory and scared people. So I didn't, I thought it was funny. They didn't, but eventually I just was making my living doing that. And then, and I got to the point where, I was singing jingles. I was producing records. I was doing everything you could do and making, like 45, 50 grand a year. But that's all I was doing was that, And then Steve Tyrell, somebody who grew up in Houston, he was a promotion man for Scepter Records, kind of an A&R publishing guy, worked with Burt Bacharach and Barry Mann and all these great guys. And he was starting a production company with Barry Mann in LA. And he came back to Houston. He goes, hey man, who's a good songwriter that's there? And my name came up. I need somebody who could produce. Yeah, that my name came up. A good artist. And so, and by the third time my name came up, he goes, well, who is this SOB? Let me meet him, And so I met him, and this guy Steve's a crazy man. So he was like, yeah, come on out, I'll hook you up, And he was a white guy who grew up in Fourth Ward, like one of the black neighborhoods. He grew up with Joe Sample and stuff. So if you heard him on the phone, you would have no idea, He was a white Italian kid, but he thought, hey, we'll be fighting through silk. You're going, I think that's good. Yeah. It's like, so all those things. And so I went out there and I had my box of DATs at the time from my band of what we're doing. He's in the middle of working on Extremities with Farrah Fawcett and James Russo. And the director's there and he's going, hey, here's one of our guys night around. Barry, come on in. So I barely met him, and I walk into the offices in L.A. He goes, you got something for this scene? We got a Porsche coming up? Yes, I do, sir. And I pull out a DAT. He goes and puts it up there. That looks good. Cut it in. And I went, this shit's easy. So I come back the next time, and I'm in 8 Million Ways to Die with Roseanne Arquette, Oliver Stone's script. One of my songs plays in one of the party scenes forever. So I'm going, honey, we're moving to L.A. This shit's easy, which it was not. But I ended up working with those guys for like 10 years, working on all the stuff. And I ended up doing the we got into where we were doing, if there's a bunch of kids who had a band on TV, I probably did their music, between him and other jobs I picked up. So I co-wrote the theme for California Dreams and did most of the songs for 5 years on that run. I wrote a song called How Do You Talk to an Angel that sold the pilot for The Heights for Aaron Spelling and ended up being a #1 hit. And then I did 10 songs for Kids Incorporated for Disney. And I worked with Jennifer Love Hewitt when she was 12 and Fergie from Black Eyed Peas when she was 16. So I did, that one just about broke me because I wrote and demoed 10 songs in 14 days to script. And I mean, it was like bathing optional, that kind of stuff. But in just other things like Steve, I ended up writing a rap song for the Tiny Toons soundtrack album. And they had all the different character actors come in and do the rap I wrote, So that was fun. So they just, like, you can't, I've had 200 songs in film and TV. You can't get the job and do the job. So 80% of the stuff, somebody like him got me, and then they gave me pizza and donuts and said, keep writing, kid, shovel that under, don't let him out, And so I did that stuff. And then I was, ensconced.
So who, like, other than the band in Houston and other than, like, I'm assuming family, what else did you leave at that time when you decided to move to California?
I was actually so funny. I was doing like an off-Broadway version of Leader of the Pack where I played Jeff Barry from the Brill Building, like with where Barry Mann and them were. And I was in the play and everything. We'd scheduled, my wife and I were been dating for 4 years. We're getting married around the Christmas holiday so everybody can come in. And they change the run and they say, we're going to close on the same day as your wedding. And so she cried, what are we going to do? And I'm going, I can't bail on I've got a lead role. I'm singing, I'm doing all this stuff. All my band was either in the pit or in the cast, And so we ended up buying 79 tickets to the play. And at the end, we had the wedding, moved the wedding up to daytime, and everybody went to see the play. And then shortly after that, we packed up and moved out to LA to go for it.
That's a crazy story.
I know, it's weird.
So have you done anything theatrical since then?
I'm trying to think. Not really. Although, when I was out there, I was doing a lot of demo singing for people. Okay. So and so, I would, for my friends, I was a really strong singer, so I would get my songs approved because I could sing the shit out of Mary Had a Little Lamb, And so people started going, hey man, sing mine, So a friend of mine had written a song for Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure. So I sang the demo for him. We didn't know who was going to sing it, so I would do my could be white, could be black, could be rock, could be everything voice. So it would be all these different kind of styles. Oh, there's Kenny Loggins. Oh, it's Babyface. Oh, And so I sing the demo, and they go, it's great. And then they really wanted Kenny Loggins to do it, and they couldn't make a deal or something happened. And they say, screw it, leave Barry on. And I'm going. And then they had Vonda Shepard come and sing a duet with me. And I said, well, let me re-sing it because I sang it like 10 different guys. No. So if you ever hear that, oh my gosh, it's hysterical. I can't, you're going like, who does this guy think he is? So I ended up being the weird guys who sang stuff like that. In the Brady Bunch movie, I'm Peter Brady when he sings like Elvis. And I sang the end title to Iron Eagles 2 and Jeff and Mike Reno from Loverboy went and ended up singing the final, So I ended up having lunch with him not too long ago with a friend of mine and saying, hey, that song that you did? I was your demo singer, So, but I ended up doing a lot of stuff like that. I ended up getting called in. Mike Knobloch, who's wicked fame, he's a super cool guy. He worked at Steve's at the same time I did. He was like kind of his right-hand business guy. And now he's gone on to be super successful and famous and all that. And he said, we got a problem with Moulin Rouge. They had gone and screened it in Cannes, and Courtney Love saw it, and they had Smells Like Teen Spirit sung by Marilyn Manson. Well, Hole had gone out with Marilyn Manson. They lasted like 3 dates before his F.U., no F.U. And she said, I've got the rights. I will injunct your film if you don't get Marilyn Manson off this. So the poor crew, everybody had just flown from France, back to Australia. They got to turn around. Mike calls me up and goes, you got to meet me at Fox Studios. I don't know how long it could take. I got a couple of you guys. You got to replace a whole choir of things, and I probably can't get you in the credits. And I said, all right, what time? We go there, and they put the film up, and when it goes double time and stuff, we just had to sing twice as fast. Here we are now, entertain us, and just stack that stuff, and so I've done a lot of really cool things you'd never know about,
Right.
Like in the end credits, it goes, smells like Teen Spirit. Nobody. And you're going, and my mother-in-law, in People magazine, they had a fictitious band did it. My mother-in-law's going, see? It's like, I'm going, well, they got it wrong at People, all right?
That's hilarious. Wow, that's crazy. So do you think that happens on a regular basis, or you think that's kind of a unique situation?
Well, I seem uniquely snake bit,
Okay.
in that way. Like during the AIDS crisis, I'd written a song for AIDS Project Los Angeles, and we were going to be at Universal Amphitheater, all these famous people. They had the Replacements, the Scottish guys, they're, from the movie, Robin Williams, Carol Channing, Bette Midler's hosting it. And so I wrote this song called What About Us for Bette to sing to close it. Gospel choir, full orchestra. A friend of mine, Paul Randolph Johnson, was doing the whole event, so he brought me in. And 2 weeks before, Bette goes, I don't want to sing it. I want to do You Gotta Have Friends. And they're going, we've got an orchestra, we got everybody done. And they go, screw it, let Barry sing it. And I'm going, oh, wow. So they keep trying to throw me and my guys out of the green room. You can't be here. Well, I'm one of the performers. I'm the only guy who's not famous, right? So I go out to sing it, and the lights are so bright, I can only see the front row. And I see David Lee Roth sitting next to Tim Curry. And they announce my name. Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Coffing. And I see David Lee Roth turn and go, who's that? I can see it. I was like going, oh my God. So we do the whole thing. We do the end bow and everything. They take the picture in the LA Times. They name everybody but me. I'm dead center in a red coat, and I get no credit. So apparently I am not supposed to be famous. So I'll have to make someone else famous,
Like the Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, yeah. I can snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, man. Let me tell you.
So do you remember the moment? And I mean, because, as a songwriter, you're amongst, thousands, millions of people. But as a songwriter for other people, that makes you a little bit more of a minority. At what point do you remember being okay with that? Or that another songwriter or another singer could make your song more famous than what you could?
I don't think I ever had a problem with it, because again, at that point I was doing the writing for dollars. So sure. It would be for this character or that person. So I spent, a decade writing for someone else, mm-hmm. And I did, even though I did my own record and stuff like that, and I ended up getting a deal on Warner Brothers, over in Asia. And that was a fun jaunt, same kind of thing. It's like, I went into Malaysia, and, my business partner, Idris, had kind of got me in to get a deal with Warner Brothers in Asia. And Tony Fernandez, who was the new head of WEA in Hong Kong, signed me. And so they bring me into Malaysia, and they put me over Madonna and Phil Collins in terms of as a priority. So they pick me up in the morning. They're taking me out. I'm doing interviews. I'm doing this. They're going, all right, it's a Muslim country. We think we can sneak you on to do a song at the end of this thing. Now, they may arrest you. So we've got our guys there. Do you want to take the chance? I'm going, let's do it, And then one of the other things, I ended up singing for the King of Malaysia, for their whole deal. And I had to finish the song and then back out. You're not allowed to turn your back on the king. So I had all these weird things that, and again, the second I left, it went double cardboard, but at least I got to see what a major label who, if they wanted to make you a star, nobody knew me. 2 weeks later, I'm signing autographs in a restaurant. And it's like, I'm going, man, that is doing some stuff.
Now, what part of, had Have you gotten to spend any other time in Asia other than Malaysia?
I actually was a musical director for Randy Crawford. And so I actually, her manager had wanted to manage me and stuff. And I wrote 2 songs on her record. So I put the band together for a tour for her. And we did a month in Australia, and then we did 2 weeks in Asia. And that's how I met the connections in Malaysia, which I love Kuala Lumpur, man. That's one of the coolest cities.
Okay.
Very, like, Toto, you're not in Kansas, They got this one street that you go down, and if you can't find God on this street, he doesn't exist. They got a Muslim mosque, they got Hindu temples, they got everything. Like, they were so diverse in the religion that they knew all each other's holidays. Oh, isn't it Ramadan for you coming up? It was like really, it was like the melting pot that we are physically, but religiously. They were, you got the Malay Indians, you got Indian and Pakistani influences, Chinese, all those things kind of mingle in there. And so I liked the diversity of it.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, what other exotic locations or what other parts of the world that you've been to that you would love to share a story about?
Okay, so, and again, in keeping with the theme, of not that cool. So I'm friends with Ruth McCartney, who's Paul McCartney's stepsister. And so she, so I produced her and we wrote songs together. She's a great writer. And so she gets a chance to go perform in Russia. And so we write this song, and I've got a Russian chorus. We call it Russian Nights, Ruskaya Noche. And so we do this video. She's in Germany. She gets some people to do an incredible video. They put it over there. And we're going to spend the weekend in Moscow. And then we're going to go down to Yerevan in Soviet Armenia and do a bunch of benefit concerts for the Armenian Earthquake Fund. Okay. And so we get ready to do that. And we go and perform, on their TV show. And in Moscow, and we do a duet together. That I sung a duet on a record, so we do that on the show. And at that time, first off, this is before the wall came down, Evil Empire. I'm sure that they've got a file on me now for all that stuff. So I go over there, and when on our way over there, we're thinking everything's great, and she's in West Germany, and we have a meeting with some people in the airport because the West German airport was in East Germany. So we have a meeting between like a fence and everything. And when we're on our way to get on the plane, we get in a taxi, we go, hey, take us there. They take us to Checkpoint Charlie and dump us. They won't go across. They can't go across. They didn't tell us that. So I get out and I'm hauling all Ruth's considerable number of shoes and mink coats and all kinds of crazy shit. And we are walking across the machine guns, the barbed wire. We have to do the whole quarter of a mile walk into the other country. I'm going, are you shitting me? And I'm sorry, but apparently not. So we get through that. We do the TV show, and then we find out that 100 million people watched it. There's only 2 channels. So the other one's the propaganda. This was the one. So, oh my God. And then her stupid song had become a huge hit. We get down to we're supposed to play club dates, 7 or 8 club dates to like 300 to 500 people. Sure. And they go, we moved to bigger venue, 8,000 seater basketball arena. And I'm going, are you kidding me? And so we play 8 nights to those things, and it's an all-star cast. So we have these people. There was one really great Russian guy who's an opera singer. We had this guy, Vladimir Kuzmin, great, he was basically the Russian Bruce Springsteen. He'd sold 20 million records in Russia. So we're part of that whole hodgepodge. And then later on, a bunch of those guys come over and the opera singer defects at my house. So it's like, I'm going like, oh my God, and he's now in Cincinnati, got a wife, got, all that stuff. Vladimir met a girl in San Diego, it's, nothing normal.
That's crazy. So then how does that lead us all then to Springboard? Like where how do we lead to, what are the roads that lead us up to you doing Springboard?
So I'd done my 20 years in LA and I'd done all that stuff. And then my dad had a stroke and I had 4 kids, and they were starting to, we hadn't been back very much. My wife, her grandmother, who was a big part of her life, and her mom, we kind of wanted them to do that. And then my girls were starting to date, so I wanted to thwart that if I could, And then my 9-year-old son, I said, look, I got tickets to Fountains of Wayne. Do you want to go? And he goes, do you have backstage passes? Because if not, nah. When your kids are starting to go, I'm not going without backstage passes. And my daughters were starting to treat us different, like they didn't think it was weird, but their friends, once they found out, then everything started weird happening. Mm-hmm. And so I moved them all back. My younger daughter went to the same high school I did. And her uncle or aunt and 2 of her aunts, so she got to graduate there. And so that was fun. And my wife got to spend the time with her grandmother. I got to be with my dad in his final days. And so I'm in Houston, and I'm still going back and forth. But I said, man, I started doing music supervision. I'm going, there's a bunch of software that lets me make music, but how come there isn't something to license music with? And went, you know what? I could build that. So I went, and a friend of mine, Randy Miller, had gotten me hooked up with this oil guy, Jim Stankin. He had some investment buddies. And so I went down and pitched him at lunch, and he goes, hell, I like movies. My wife likes movies. Will 50 grand get you started? Yes, sir, it will. So he brought in some other investors, mostly Texas oil guys. We had a couple of rounds of that. I ended up raising about $1.8 million and building musicsupervisor.com, and We Get Artists. So I now represent 20,000 labels and artists from 79 countries for film and TV. And so we're pitching 5 to 15,000 songs a month. We put a song in Green Book, 1 in Blindside, or 2 in Blindside that had Sandra Bullock. We had something in the Bob Dylan movie. We lost Miss Maisel, all of these different things. And I'm helping other people get what I got, And so I got a little bit bored, and I had grown up around South by Southwest. I said, oh, it's lost its way. I could do something better. And somebody called me on my bullshit. And so in 2012, they said we could have the space in the center of Houston. And so I put together the first Springboard, 54 bands, 3 stages, 2 stages over 3 days. And here we are. This will be our silver one in DC this upcoming weekend. And we, so it's our 25th Springboard, and the first time on the East Coast.
So like you said, you started out in the South, and now we're trying to do one in each kind of direction of the country. What led to wanting to do that and expanded it that way?
So I'm so delusional that I always wanted to do that. So that's the first problem. It's just taken me 14 years to get to it, But I started in Houston doing that, and then we went to the West Coast. So we started doing Ocean Beach and San Diego. So we started doing 2 a year. Then we added Memphis, So then, so this was the sort of the final thing. And the idea I started a nonprofit called Sustainable Artists, and our job is to teach artists how to make a living. So I got all my friends to come in and do panels and presentations and everything. And they're all doing it for free just to help these artists. And we typically have about 500 bands who sign up, and we'll pick 30 to 50 that we think we can help. We're looking for guys halfway across the stream that kind of have done everything they can do, and maybe they need a manager or a good song or, something like that. So, and then we also do what we call a silent auction. We do a thing we call the band mall, where all of my speakers I've got, Dale Penner, who was the guy who discovered Nickelback and did their first record. He's donating a mix. So they can bid to get this guy that did Nickelback to do their mix. I got Danny Jones, who did all the Dolby Atmos mixes for all the Al Green hits. So he's donating an Atmos mix. And, write a song with the #1 hit songwriter. All of these different things. Everybody's donating that. And the impact it has, the biggest thing in my entire life was writing a song with Barry Mann. That guy has written more songs and just working, and we didn't even hardly finish it. We did it, and I'm a little bit dumb, so about 6 months later, it showed up in my writing, and I didn't write the same after that. And so the ability to kind of pass that along, and Steve Tyrell taught me just about everything I know about business. So he was always so giving, and he was a madman. He would yeah, come on, let's do it. So I've sort of taken that mantle, and I do crazy stuff with my interns, with all my people. I've got interns from Berkeley and all these different places, and I'll do films where I'll supervise them for free, but I make them a teaching hospital. So we just finished a thing for Fox, a vertical film, in designed for your phone, and 5 of my interns got to be assistant music supervisors on it and put songs in and get credits. So, that's the biggest thing is no one ever calls you up and goes, hey, I need a song for this. Can I see your diploma? They go, let me see your credits. Let me hear you, So this is a way to help those guys get into it. So I'm always active on, you can't be about innovation without being about education. Mm-hmm. And so while I didn't have good college experience, I tried it several times. It didn't take, but I do like teaching the business, especially, and so we try to do that whenever we can.
Well, and like throughout history, you always hear about, or you read about, or you witness, or you even talk in person to people who are like ideas people, but they don't have like the business acumen. Do you feel like you kind of have both, or was it Steve's kind of like, mentorship that allowed you to kind of have both?
I have always been a bipolar thing. So I was 19, and my wife makes fun of, we had one band, they called it Barry and the Beards. I mean, I looked like Tom Cruise. I couldn't grow a whisker till I was in my 40s. Wow. But I was booking the band. I got us all our gigs. I did, I always found the business stuff as, in some ways, as creative as the creation part. Okay. Coming up with cool ideas for how to do things. And with Springboard, what's been fun is I moderate a lot of panels. So if I don't know something, I'll just call 3 TikTok experts and go, hey, I'm going to moderate this panel, and just, add to my knowledge base.
What is it about TikTok that has really changed the landscape of music as we know it today?
They do a lot of things that are different. It's doom scrolling, it's attention. I have some beefs with them in that they don't pay music the same way. Correct. What they wanted was content. So they say, okay, we're not going to pay you for how many times the song was streamed. We're going to pay you for how many people used your song in their video. And they when you put your stuff up there, they don't call them songs. They go, upload your sounds here. And so they're trying to devalue stuff like that. So I personally don't have a TikTok thing. And I think they're starting to crest here where they're not as important. For a minute there, boy, if you don't have TikTok, But I remember if you don't have a MySpace, it's like, I've been around long enough to see, yeah, I've heard that, What do you think of the metaverse? Well, I liked it when it was, Second Life, Yeah. I like it. It's like the Mark Twain quote: "History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes." I'm going, yeah, this thing's rhyming for me a little bit,
Yeah, we all remember the AOL disc.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, that's hysterical.
So you work for Barry Mann. I mean, like there has to be either a story or a conversation that sticks out in your mind that you had with him that you can share with us. Because my God, like.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Well, no, I can't tell that one. I'm trying to think. I mean, Steve was more the guy running. Barry and Cynthia. They were being brought in to do great stuff. Just being around, like hearing the demo from Through the Fire, and they were doing Somewhere Out There, and all of that kind. Hearing the stories about that stuff and being around for a lot of those things. It was also amazing what great writers him and his wife were, Cynthia. Like wow. Like when you look at the lyrics she's written, and her lyrics were always incredible, So being around that level of songwriting, I think that was probably the most impactful thing.
Yeah.
Just because it was like in the air, and they were always doing it. Because Steve's the crazy guy who would get us some kind of gig, he would just could get in there,
So as a songwriter, are you typically then lyrics first and then music, or are you music first and then lyrics?
I am all of the above, so depending on who I'm writing with. The thing that I do now that's really weird is I will write a song like you hear it, Here's the intro. Here's the first verse. There's the second verse. What's the chorus? Don't know. Haven't gotten there.
Yeah.
And I will work without a net. And that's not normal. There are not very many people who can write very well to a lyric. That's much more difficult. But I was working with Steve Tyrell's wife, Stephanie, and she would create the lyrics, and then I would go in and write to it. Okay. And we tweak it a little bit here and there, but that's being the the Elton John to a Bernie Taupin. Yeah. That's not everyone can do that. That's a much harder thing, and that's a skill that I don't think a lot of people have. A lot of people start with the music and then write a lyric. That's a more normal thing. And then you got the Nashville guys. I got a great idea. I could miss you, but you never leave. Now let's write that. So they'll come in. Nashville's a different scene. But I'm not really that. I don't tend to be that. I've got a great concept kind of thing. Okay. I may come up with one. Like, how do you talk to an angel? There was something in the script about that, and I went, oh, that I know what to do with that.
Yeah.
When you've co-written songs with other people, does the genre of music change your kind of way of writing the song or your kind of mentality, or does it not matter the genre?
It does matter. If you're doing something dance or something like that, you may start with a drum track. You may, for the most part, I'm the 3 Ps. Give me a pencil, paper, and a piano, and that's how I like to work. And I'll start with something slow, even an up tune. Make sure I don't want to get lazy on the melody, because sometimes if you do stuff with the groove, you can be lazy with the melody. Whereas if you do it as a ballad, make everything work and then speed it up, make sure it's singable faster, you can come up with something a little more clever, I think.
Why do you think that is, just from a musical standpoint?
You're just, you're taking the time to hear the notes against the chords.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things like where you can play a chord, and in country, like, look, do you like G, C, and D? I hope so. Because it's like, like they say, 3 chords in the truth.
Right.
But I'll do 3 chords in the truth, and then I'll sing the 9. I'll sing something in between. So it's like, hey, you're kind of like in the middle of something like that, and there's a tension and a boy, I think he means it. And it's really just I'm singing between 2 notes that are rubbing against me. So there's things you can do like that you can advance the chords without ever being accused of using a 7 or a 9 or, So there's technical stuff you can do.
Would you consider yourself a baritone then, or are you a bass then when you sing?
I'm a baritone I'm a lyric baritone. I've got good high notes.
Yeah.
And my low notes are good, but they're not, they weren't good enough to be a real bass,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I've got kind of like, I would certainly trade my notes for either way would have done me better, And when I had the opera scholarship, I could have used the lower notes, because baritone's like baritone second tenor. That's the cheap seats. You want to be a real bass, or you want to be a first tenor. Give me a Ballless Wonder,
Well, it's the beauty of the head voice, the head voice is such an underrated, like when you hear a good head voice, or at least for me, like I'm just entranced by it. It's just amazing.
Well, and I've got a guy, Ricky Como. This guy, he's in his 60s and still has a high C full voice.
Yeah.
And, you're going like, dude, how do you do that? Like, that was the thing. I always was a poser. Like, I've got all this great falsetto stuff, but when you get it up against a real tenor, then it's like the emperor's naked,
And usually age kind of takes care of that tenorism, right? I mean, fair to say.
It has for me, That's a whoo, it's like I'm taking it down a little bit.
It is amazing how like artists, even like Michael Jackson. I mean, like it's a prime example. Like, I mean, like the notes that he could hit as a man, I mean, it's pretty impressive. And then who knows if he could sing them that way now?
Well, I'm sure he can now. but yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, it's there's a little bit of adjustment. Like I know a lot of my songs, I take them a step down.
Yeah.
You just want to find where your new center is, and for me, it's about a step down.
And talk about like, I mean, because singers always talk about breathing, but for you in particular, how much is breathing a part of your singing and how your repertoire?
Yeah, I mean, I was trained enough to be able to sing correctly.
Yeah.
And then if you want to F it up a little bit, which I would, you want to tear your throat up, just be controlled about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to have good breath support.
So you're the keynote speaker on Thursday. What's the topic on, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so the crazy thing about Springboard is these bands all come in. We have somebody, I think somebody's coming in from Portugal. Like, we've got them coming in from everywhere, and they're the hottest guys wherever they came from. And they're worried about the competition. They're worried, artists are filled with an incredible amount of arrogance and insecurity.
Yeah.
And so they're going to come in with boatloads of both. Mm-hmm. And this is not American Idol. They are not competing. And so the first thing I do, the keynote I'm doing is called DIY is a Big Fat Lie. No one ever did it themselves. I firmly believe if the Beatles didn't have a great producer and a great manager, they'd still be playing at a whorehouse in Berlin. Talent is a factor, but you need to build a team. And all these guys, they're hungry because they've done pretty much everything they can, and they're not as far as they want to be. And I have been that guy. So the first thing I do is I go through everything in the last 70 years that has not changed. And I go through, you think, oh, it's so crazy and different. No, it's not. If I say, hey, I got a great band, what's the story? It's always been, what's the story? It's like the saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so I start to do that. I show them how, and the other thing too, I really take umbrage. If you don't grow up in a major music town, you go, I'm going to be in the music business. They go, what's your fallback? What are you going to do on the other side? They never give you they never think you can do that. Yeah. And I'm going, like, if you say, I want to be in the NFL, you may not be a quarterback, but can you cut grass? Poof, you're in the NFL. Can you drive a truck? Why not drive Beyonce's? Don't let anybody tell you you can't do that. And I go through all the jobs and sub-jobs and to have no musical talent? Can you be an accountant, an attorney, an agent? There's a million things you can do. So I go through all that stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm going, it's about a team. You're here to build one. And then the next thing we do is I hate panels where they got people talking about how famous they are, how they met this famous guy. Let me tell you about how I met Sting. So I say, Sting, baby. I don't give an F. I don't let anybody do that stuff. It's like, it's not about us, it's about them. And so everybody is active. I don't care how old they are, whatever. If they're not out there with their own label, signing bands, they're not on the stage. Some people are famous, some people aren't. They're all great, or I wouldn't have them. And so one of the things we do is we do what I call moment of truth panels. So I've got all these panelists. I've got somebody from Grey's Anatomy and this person from Disney and all these supervisors, and you want to hear about how to get a song in a movie. Great. I know what I'd like to do. I'd like to play my song. So we do a moment of truth. We go, okay, all right, Dogg, you think that your songs belong in the movies? 1 minute of one song. What do you want to play for the panel? Let's do it. And we've gotten 30 people in movies over the 14 years from our pitch sessions. We do the same thing for radio. Think you got a radio single? All right, let's go. And so what I do right after I do the keynote is I say, let's practice your speech. Because everybody, one of the things I take umbrage with, they say, oh, musicians, they're bad businessmen. No, we're not. We're not businessmen. We're entrepreneurs. There's a big difference. Only an artist or an entrepreneur would work 16 hours a day for free for a dream. Business people don't. They don't care what. I bought it low, I sell it high. Where are you not fulfilled at all? So I tell them that this is what you are. This is what you're doing. I need you to practice your elevator pitch. So I make them do the practice moment of truth before I throw them to the wolves. And I practice on the supervision thing because I'm going to be the guy heading that up at the end. And I'm going, why'd you pick that song? Why'd you start there? I train them, you got to walk up. Hey, we're Joe Blow and the Nobodies. We're a prog rock band from here. You got to tell me between floors 3 and 7 what you do. And we're about to play you this. So I coach them up and they see each other and they also see how good each other is. So they get really humble and they also realize there is no way they're competing. Their songs are so effing different. Even the 3 metal guys have different, they're just not the same. So that completely, puts them on edge and comforts them at the same time. And so that's one of the things I love that moment. And then what we do at the end of the first day, we give a dinner break, and then we do the naked stage. So you go, okay, and it's mirroring a radio tour. When the people don't realize you don't go out and tour, you do a radio tour, and you walk into a radio station or do something like what you're doing, and you got to give an interview. And then maybe you can bring a guitar, you could play one song, And so we make them do that. And we see, can they talk? Can they, because and then the speakers, they've had a dinner break. They've got nothing better to do. Why not go to the naked stage? And it's called the naked stage. So it is designed to make people go there. And so you can see them going, oh, I want to see that band on Saturday. They start making their list like Santa Claus and checking it twice. I want to work with him. All the speakers, it's like a little bit of a shark thing. They're all looking on which minnow they'd like to eat. They're altruistic, but they're looking for the next big thing they can make some money off of. And the bands have all seen each other and they've heard the stories. We ask them different questions, and it's amazing how diverse their stories are, how they got into it, and then how many times it's the same. My grandfather believed in me, my this, that, the other, or everything was so terrible that I want to help people with this. And you could see them self-identify, and they walk out by the end of day 1, day 2 starts, and they're holding hands. And there are bands that are bonding. We have one award we call the Odd Couple. Who are the 2 artists that are going to get together that you never dreamed would do it? And so the one we just did in Texas, I think they have our world's record. We have this one like Texas blues singer, plays with a harmonica, plays, just really like kind of Janis Joplin with a guitar, it's like, hey, how you doing? I'm glad I could make it, my husband didn't have to go to court, so I'm good, like one of those kind of vibes, And so she's there and she bonds with, and this was a thing, an autistic Israeli Christian metal singer.
Nice.
And they become best buds, and I'm like, I can't believe that third time you said the F word, she didn't get, we can't believe they were besties. We're going like, oh my God, you win the Odd Couple Award for all Springboards right now. We've had, country bands from Georgia bonding with hip hop guys from St. Louis. We've had some cool things, but I don't think we're going to have to work hard to beat that one.
That's a good segue, because I've talked about this with bands before. It's funny to me that like country music today and rap music and like the hip hop community, they are more, I think, aligned and alike than they ever have in either of their histories. Is that fair to say?
Yep. And you know what? The one thing that you see when you go to roots rock, country, and R&B, they're all the same chords. Blues rooted. It's a very much started out. Everybody started out as 3 chords in the truth. And when you do the country stuff, when you're talking about the truth, man, all the hip hop guys, they're speaking their truth. They're doing that. So, and they're both very strong tribe kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. The people in Nashville, when you go to Fanfare, it's like the country music petting zoo, and they open up there, and they're not away from their constituency. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting, the stuff they're doing. And again, with what Beyonce and those guys are doing, with all that kind of stuff, blending of those things. Yeah. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Nashville, we got to go to Americana Fest last year, which was a blast. My second time in Nashville. And what I realized in Nashville this time that I hadn't realized the first time is that not only is it the level of musicianship there is just out of this world, but like it is amazing to me that like a city like Nashville, it's 1 million people, not even, right?
Yep.
Can handle all of those country artists having their own bars on one street. Like, where else can you have that? Like
Austin.
Where else in the world? Yeah. But even Austin, it's not like. Yeah, it's unbelievable to me, and like Broadway is probably the worst part of Nashville. Like,
it is. We're going to do Midtown. Yeah, we're not doing Broadway. We're gonna anybody in Austin go stay away from 6th Street.
Right.
And again, Beale Street, that's for the tourists. Like when you go to these things, there's where the tourists go, and then there's where the industry goes.
Yeah, it was very, very kind of like eye-opening to me because, like I was trying to think of any other city in the world that has what Nashville has, and like they really don't. Like Vegas, maybe a little bit, but not really, right? I mean,
well, here's why they're so strong. So Nashville is driving distance away from 70% of the U.S. population. So they are central. When you can hit all the East Coast and you can still make Chicago in one day, that's why it's a hub. Those guys, they have houses there. Those guys are doing 200 dates a year. They don't see home but 2-3 months a year.
It's crazy.
And so when a country band rolls in, come on, Junior, get the in-ears in there. They got a 12-year-old setting up the in-ears for the band. On the summer tour, they take everybody. They're their own thing. And when you look at the hip-hop guys, they're so strong with their branding, their logos, their identity, their dress. They get that. Like all the different genres bring something to the equation. So when you mix them up, they're all, at the beginning, they're all looking at each other thinking, oh, those guys, they look weird. Well, you all look weird, by the way, But at the end of the day, there's something they can all pick up.
Yeah. Have you guys at any of these conferences in the past or even at this current one talked about the importance of routing and like tour routing, especially nowadays with, gas being so expensive and hotels being so expensive and everything? Like talk about that as a musician as well as, on your side now.
Second day touring. And it's not just that, it's your merch. It's the difference between we're calling it, thriving, not just surviving the road. And so one of the things too is get a hotel that's got breakfast in the morning. It can be as simple as things like that, where that can be the difference. Keeping your health up while you're on the road. All of these different things. The other thing, and I'm getting to some real inside baseball, but some of these clubs, they're supposed to be paying ASCAP and BMI for broadcast rights when they've got a live thing. Yeah. So if they really are paying, you don't want to out the club, but if they're paying those, you can say, here's our set list. You can say, hey, can you sign this, turn it into BMI or ASCAP and get paid for it.
Correct. Yeah.
And so that's the kind of other things. The hip hop guys are into that. They'll go into big stadium things, go, I'll open for you for free. And then the smart guys, I learned that from Pyrex, one of our rappers out of Columbus. Yeah, he would go in and they can make, $600 to $1,200 for that one night just in those royalties.
So have you heard about, and maybe personally, because I've heard bands that tell me this, of venues that are charging a percentage for merch sales?
Yes. Well, on the bigger things, Live Nation, things like that, for the big guys, they really rape them. They do that all the time. It's kind of bullshitty, but that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the 930 Club in DC, where you guys are going to be, they charge up to 40%.
That's too much. That's got to be for headliners. I can't imagine them doing it to the little guys like that.
Well, you would hope so. Yeah. But it sounds like
I think we're moving a bunch of stuff to the Wharf too, so that should be nice.
Yeah, it sounds like the industry standard is like 25%, and they're baking. They're basically saying, well, we're providing someone to to do your stand or whatever, and blah blah.
Oh, they don't even do that.
Right.
They're lying.
They don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So a friend of mine who worked with Prince, you know what they did? They said, hey, we're dropping some stuff. Can we put it at will call and everything? So they had the people pre-order the merch, and then they shipped it to will call. So when they got their tickets, they got their T-shirts and stuff in advance, and the club couldn't take any money out of it. So they've closed that loophole since then, but not everybody. So there's some tricks you can do. And I've got this guy, Uncle Rhino, he's got some great stuff. He has some tricks.
Okay.
And,
I know a lot of artists are using like volume.com, and what's the other site that they use? Patreon, and like,
yep.
Where you're basically, it's like a monthly subscription, and like these bands and artists are, giving exclusive content, live performances, stuff like that. Do you see that as a viable, like, long-term option for artists and bands?
It's come and gone. It was particularly COVID, stuff like that. There is now a fatigue on that kind of thing. There's basically a subscription fatigue. Substack that was really blowing up for writers, they're now running into it. It's starting to die, and I think there's going to be a safety in numbers. Like, one of the things I've been working on is a music discovery platform. I'm using like our $1.8 million search engine, but the idea is to have it where you can discover in one place and then have people drift back and forth. If you do a user-centric model where whoever entertains them gets the money, then you can shift and everything like that. And it's a lot bigger pie. And they aren't, if they're not in the mood for you right now, that's fine. They'll come back around, or someone else will be. You can share your audience, and we're gonna include stuff like podcasts like yours. So I'll be talking to you on the side, but we want to. If it's about music, we want to have it. And part of what we're gonna do is be able to share the wealth. Like, we're about discovery. So somebody like you that helps us discover a band, we got no problem with giving you 10% of the streaming money while you're doing it. So we need an independent, like guys like you, we need a bunch of you people that still love independent music. We need our own media, because when I look at the big media things, BlackRock just bought somebody, they just bought the rights to Tina Turner's name and likeness. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to change my life that way.
And
it's not for us anymore.
Brooklyn Vegan, they just got massive layoffs, a bunch of music magazines that are all like doing what we're trying to do, is like, uplift like bands that are not like part of the machine. And I saw that, and it's a crushing blow. And I guess Cream Magazine, who is, I guess, like owner of that, they're owned by Live Nation. So it really it doesn't really surprise you, does it?
No. It's the stuff that they do with the T-shirts, Live Nation. So that's good Lord, guys. It's called a monopoly.
Yeah.
And
$25 billion in the second quarter. I mean, when's enough? Like, I mean, what are we doing?
Well, and they've got no farm club. We used to be able to go like the stuff that I did to play 6 nights a week. That doesn't happen. Yeah. And I sucked at the beginning, like everybody when they're young. But you start playing 4 hours a night, 5 nights a week, you don't suck for very long. Right. That's the biggest thing, was we need more time to do it.
So talk about music venues in Houston. I'm not real familiar with Houston as a city. So like, if I was coming there for the weekend and I wanted to see 3 venues, like, what music venues am I going to see?
Well, so the first thing is Houston's huge. It's probably, if Trump didn't mess up the census, it would be the number 3 city in the United States, behind Chicago. It's incredibly diverse. It took New York as the most ethnically diverse city in the United States. We've got oil, we got medicine, we got, cattle, we got, all of these different things. And so that brings in people from the Mideast, people from India, Pakistan, all these different places. So it's like, the one thing I'll say is they don't have to apologize for food at all. What do you want? Vietnamese? You want Thai? You want whatever you want? We got more Chinese in our Chinatown than they do in San Francisco. More gays too. Fly that flag, So it's not what you think. And also the freeway systems, it looks like the Jetsons. I mean, it's massive, And so whatever, I would say, what do you like? Because we got it. And so there's some great singer-songwriter rooms. There's great hip-hop and R&B rooms. There's great blues rooms. There's all different kinds. Whatever you like, it's playing here at some point.
I've always heard bands and artists that are from Texas say, like, realistically, you could play just the state of Texas and you could live off that.
It's called Americana. Right. They never have, like, their guys, Pat Green and those guys, they are making 6 figures. They go to Oklahoma, if you want to call that going. And maybe they'll hit a little Louisiana, but pretty much they're playing Texas dance halls. Like, you've got 25 million people within driving distance. Once you do San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, and Houston, boom, that's the heart of Texas. And the economy of Texas is second only to California. So it's not a joke either. Now, a lot of that's oil and, other stuff, but it's a player, and it's its own thing. Like what I like to tell people back when they bought records, 40% of every country record and pickup truck sold is sold in Texas. We buy pickup trucks, we buy country, damn it.
Crazy statistic.
Yeah, that's like you're going, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we do.
So, I mean, I guess, you lived in LA for 20 years. You've lived now in Houston for all the rest of your life. Like, is there a city or is there any other area of the country that you could see yourself like living in?
I love Vancouver. Oh. I love, I have a sort of a fantasy about, I do a lot of stuff with Berkeley. So if they would offer me like a summer thing to go teach in Seville, Spain, I might, I have a Jones for spending, I would like to live in another country for a little period. Mm-hmm. I loved Australia. I loved KL. I would do some things like that, in terms of, I like Houston. In fact, I'm moving my company there because of the taxes, for all the reasons that Elon's moving his stuff there. It's a good place to do business, Get yourself a Delaware LLC and you get yourself a Texas address, and I think you're going to be okay.
I saw completely off topic, but Toast, who does like all the restaurant POS systems and stuff, they I guess did their rankings for last year. The number one state in our country that tips the greatest at 22% average,
Texas,
Delaware.
Delaware. You're kidding
California me. Was 50th.
Oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, now that I think about Texas, no.
Yeah. I don't think we did I was that surprised good. At that. I was like, wow, Delaware, of all places, 22% average. That's pretty good.
That is. So let's wait a minute. You might have a new place I want to check out. If I ever want to open a restaurant, there, right? I'm gonna go do that.
I mean, you won't be that far from when you're in DC. So, are you flying into Reagan then, or how are you flying in?
Flying into Baltimore.
Baltimore, okay.
Yeah, I kind of find that an easier deal.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna do the whole thing there. So we're having like our opening cocktail party this upcoming Wednesday, which is I think when this is going to air. Yeah. And then, by the way, for any of the musicians, we're making the conference free. So anybody, if you hear this and you're seeing this podcast and you're in the area, come on in until we run out of seats. You're welcome to come because it doesn't cost us an extra dime to help another person.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to some bands in the DC, Baltimore, Delaware area that I'm familiar with. So I will definitely make that a point, and we'll do some social media as well. But yeah, definitely to help you out.
Well, thanks so much.
Them out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think I think the big deal is getting them to think different. Because you have a lot more options now than you've ever had. It's definitely a different world, but I think it's navigatable. And we're having a big AI, kind of town hall meeting about that. Again, it's the monster we got to make peace with. It's like a gun. It's a tool. Depends on who's wielding it.
Correct.
Are you going to protect people, or you're going to shoot yourself? Or others. I mean, it's like I have a vendor deals with Sony and with Netflix. I am not allowed to have any AI generated music at all.
Good.
So that's at least a good part.
Right. Do you feel like that's going to become industry standard, or do you think that that's not going to be industry standard?
It's hard to see. Like, I'm already pissed off that they trained everything on our songs, and they can do all the lawsuits, and they'll whatever money they win, they won't give it to the rest of us. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a boom ultimately for live performances because you can't fake that. Real people. I think that this generation is going to really get tired. I'm already tired of the AI generated art. I mean, there's some elements of it that are brilliant.
Yeah.
We're going to have some people that are going to do some. We got some people coming in from Pennsylvania that are doing some AI stuff for one of our artists. Actually, an artist I might like to send to you. This guy, Tom C. Reed. He kind of sounds like if David Bowie and Steely Dan had a baby with a little Chicago in it. So it is. I see you and I'm going, I think I have a man for you. And you're probably in your neck of the woods.
Okay. Yeah, it is. I don't know what it is because I have like the bands that I love. My top three are Radiohead, Pearl Jam, and then it's either Wilco, My Morning Jacket, Dawes. It's kind of a rotation of those. But like,
I love Wilco.
Yeah, we saw them a couple months ago, and like, my God, like, they're so good.
Some of those records when they were doing the lo-fi stuff with it, they had their moment for me, definitely.
I mean, Yankee Hotel. I mean that
yep, that's the one.
I spent about 3.5 hours on a September rainy evening after seeing Pearl Jam at the United Center, trying to find the condo buildings on the
there you go.
And I finally found them, and I was like, yeah, this is great. But yeah, nobody else would do that. Everybody else would think I was nuts, but yeah.
You're our kind of people. Do that. Thanks, Dogg. You're going to blend over with our guys.
But just this insatiable appetite that I have to listen to new music. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is, but like, I'm glad that I have that passion, because if I didn't, like, I would just, if music just stopped and we couldn't listen to anything else, like no new music ever came out, I would just implode. Like, I literally would just implode. Like, that's.
Yeah, I got to have new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, well, and again, I don't even have to work for it because it comes to me all the time. We get so many songs submitted, on a regular basis that we don't even have to, and everybody on my team, like, we're going, oh my, like, there's this one African guy I flipping love. Can't believe, like, I was in the middle of doing a pitch. I stopped and listened to his song like 10 times instead of doing my job. Yeah. I just thought it was so incredible. And you're going like, dude, what is he doing in Nigeria? Come on over, It's always fun to discover great new people.
And we were talking about how kind of a little bit of the demise of South by, and ever since Time Warner kind of took it over, I kind of envisioned it happening, but this year was really like kind of the eye-opening, like, there just wasn't that many bands. Like, there just weren't that many.
Well, the thing is, they took the whole convention center down. Did you see the hole?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to come, like, they can't come back until they fix that.
Yeah.
So I go and I speak on panels and stuff there. I do a thing with the Australian government where they'll bring in a bunch of bands from there, and then we'll have lunch with them and stuff like that.
The Australia House is always one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. Those guys are great.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I do a bunch of stuff with those guys. And anybody that I can help, man, I'm down.
So have you ever been to Newport Folk Festival?
No.
I got to do it in 2017. I still think it is the best music festival on earth.
Really?
It is. Because Newport, Rhode Island, first of all, is just one of the coolest towns ever. And then the festival itself is actually at a fort. So, like, your backdrop of the main stage is like a 18-foot high fort wall. So, like, the whole harbor is behind you. So, like, all of these sailboats, like, will, like, come up to, like, because they want to listen to music too. Like, it's unreal. And all of the music is done by, like, 7 o'clock at night. It's kind of like Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
So then you have the evening to do, like, whatever. Like, you can take a ferry from downtown to the fort. Like, it's unbelievable. But the tickets are so hard to get. Like,
really?
They go on sale. Well, they used to go on sale in December. Now they go on sale in January. But they don't announce the lineup. So you're basically buying the tickets just to hope that the lineup's good.
Yeah. That's that. You've built up a good brand if you've got people to take that leap of faith.
That's correct. Yep. So you were talking about going to Europe and Australia and all these other countries. Like, I have been to the Caribbean, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Canada, I've been to everywhere else. I've just never been to Europe, and I have told myself since probably like I was in college that I know that once I go there, I won't want to come back. Did you ever kind of have that concept or that mantra when you visited somewhere?
Um, no, not really. I
Okay.
mean, there's enough differences. You're intrigued by it, but like especially watching Ruth McCartney because she has lived everywhere. She lived in Australia. She lived in Germany. She lived in Nashville. She's now in LA. Like watching all their stories, and they settled into these crazy places. I sort of lived a little bit vicariously through them, and I think it's something that I'd want to do once, but I don't. I don't know if it would be permanent because I've got grandkids and stuff like that. So that would get to be hard. But I would want, I can't decide I can't decide where it would be too. Where I've got a friend who, Drew Cole, who's in Nice right now. He's really, really talented artist and stuff. And he's right. Got a building overlooking the square and and I like Nice. That's a pretty cool place.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do here. In terms of launch. Like we're basically doing fundraising to launch a music discovery platform,
Right.
and so that's my real focus because I think I can help the most people by creating a side structure for independent guys to get a fair fight. So we won't be representing major labels at all.
I mean, share that story that you told me before we started recording about how like Sony and these with Spotify, that's just crazy, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically the major labels went in and they've got the game where like 20 basically out of $30 billion a year, 20 billion of it's from streaming. So everybody going, oh, they can't make any money from streaming. Yeah, they can, but it's the major labels. They've rigged the game to where they get paid more than they deserve to. And at the time, they might have not intended that, but basically, de facto on Spotify, 60% of the indie guys' money is going to someone else. And they use it, they find ways, and they did a crazy thing, two things that I really kind of hate. One is they said, we've added books on tape and we've got podcasts, so we want the Amazon deal. And the Amazon deal means they cut the songwriters' royalties from 10 to 5.4%. So in the time of this, they just gutted the songwriters, They also said, hey, let's do something like what YouTube's doing. If you don't get 1,000 streams in a year, we're not going to pay you anything. We're not going to black box it till it adds up. We used to do that. We're not doing that. And they don't want the negative stuff on their books. And they've got contractually to pay more to the major labels. So those things made it in such a manner that I think we need to have something different. And they're also not designed for discovery. They've got, you go, hey, you're supposed to discover music on Spotify with their playlist. They've got 2 billion playlists and 250 million songs. Does that narrow it down for you? Yeah, and every chance they get, they're trying to funnel you to major label guys or some Swedish guys named Sven that's got 600 band names, so that they don't have to pay it out. So they're not wanting, they wouldn't care if a lot of the indie guys left. So I'd like to help them in their quest. I'd like to pay 10 times more, cut the artist in, have them be a partner, and see how they like it. So
I think they're going to like it.
I know our guys will like it. I'm not sure that Spotify and some of those other people, but Daniel Ek and those guys, him and his partner have already pulled $2.4 billion out of the deal. That thing goes down tomorrow. He's got a drone company. He can go bomb some people. They're fine.
Yeah. So I guess, we've talked about some issues with the industry, but with regards to concerts, it just seems like it's, they did the whole lawsuit against Live Nation. That's not going to go anywhere. You know that better than I do. Like, is there like an easy fix, or like, is this a real complicated situation that's just really, there's no end game in it?
I think that they've gone the way, like I'm an NFL fan, but you can't bring your kids to an NFL game now. Like that's beyond, they priced it out of the ability for it to be other than baseball. Baseball, you could do it. You want some Lakers tickets? Oh, good Lord. Last time I checked, $54,000, a piece for you want to be in the courtside? There you go. And so I think that we have to have a farm club. We need some more small cap things in the 200 to 500 range. We need some people that'll work together to route things over. And I think the biggest problem is in the clubs and stuff. The club owners all think the band's going to bring the crowd. The bands all think the club's got the crowd. They're going to entertain them. Dude, you got to work together to bring the crowd. And so I think there's going to be some things, but I think that it's tough to replace a real live experience. So I think there's going to be an upswell for that kind of stuff, because right now, you better have one heck of a show. And Taylor Swift, more hats off to them. They're magical things, but it's really a drag when it's cheaper to go to Europe to see Taylor Swift than to see her in the U.S.
Yeah, that is a reality.
Yeah, and you're going like, wow, So they're and a lot of times it's not the artist's fault. The third party ticket reselling, the scalping, all that stuff. They don't realize that money just prices their fans out. So I think it's definitely something to be dealt with, but also to the getting paid on streaming, getting something where these artists make money while they're sleeping, that has to happen.
You can't make money on touring. It's all.
Well, you can if you're one of the big guys,
right?
The little guys, they're getting killed. Like a lot of these people are, and they, they're now the big. It's like tentpole movies. I watched them. Disney and Touchstone used to do 12 to 15 films. Now they're doing down to 3 or 4, but they all have Marvel or Star Wars, and so but those things are not working anymore. You've got to keep a healthy ecosystem. You've got to have, new voices, real talented people,
I think you're right, though. You hit a point where I think there is kind of an upswell, and I think there is a little bit of a pushback finally against Live Nation, against these stadium shows, against these big ticket events where you're paying $200-$300 for a show. I'm seeing these smaller venues now, open mic nights are starting to fill up again. Comedy nights, you're seeing communities start these smaller venues. I think you're going to start seeing a fallback to those. Do you kind of see that too, or are you seeing that?
I'm not seeing it yet, but I'm feeling it. It's like one of those that you're seeing a little bit here, a little bit there. Yeah. I think they'll have to get to the real saturation point, and I think we're close. Yeah. But also too, with all the stuff with the economy, I mean, man, it's tough for everybody.
Yeah. So food, I get, we're getting diarrhea lettuce. I mean, come on.
Yeah, my favorite. I could use it to lose a couple pounds, I'm not sure I want to do it that way, but
So, I mean, for you now, when you go to a concert, it is can you enjoy it, or are you nitpicking, or are you looking at everything? Are you, kind of dissecting everything, or can you truly enjoy a concert when you go to a concert?
Oh man, you busted me. That movies are my worst. It's enjoying a movie without critiquing the soundtrack or the score, or it's sort of ruined it a little bit for me. My favorite music to see live is jazz, because it's a jazz record's okay, but it's not like watching them live. And so I used to love to go to the Baked Potato, and it holds 30 people in LA, and you'd see all these amazing. I was there one night, and there was Mike Landau and who else? Oh, Steve Lukather. They had a band called Del Scorcho. And it's all these incredible guys just shredding. I saw Slash so drunk there that they were stepping over him. I've seen, they're I wasn't at that club, but there's different clubs. But you can see real in some of these cities they've got these hidden places. Vegas, if you want to see something really cool, go out on Monday night, because there's these club bands and they're all the guys playing with all these famous, they're playing with Barry Manilow and Celine Dion, and they're playing these burned down funk stuff on their off time. So they're shredding when they get their chance. I mean, the hard part about these great musicians, they're overqualified for anything you want to have them do. You're going like they're just excited when it's even something that's even remotely challenging. Yeah. And I have such respect because I'm not that good a player. With my computer now, one might say I was perfect, but I so much respect what those guys do and what they bring. And that's why in my thing, we are going to have 8 points for all the guys that played on the record. Yeah. We're going to have 4 engineering points and 8 producer points. And I'll pay it out of my share, But that, I think, is going to be a really incredible thing that recognizes their contributions.
Yeah. So I want to get back into talking about syncs, because I know that's a really nice way for artists and bands to make money. And obviously you kind of are part of that. Talk about how syncs have really kind of changed the landscape for bands and artists.
They have and they haven't. They're super important. And the hard part is because I'm seeing so many deals, for me to get somebody in a movie, I got to pitch 1,000 songs to get one placement. Somewhere between 500 and 1,000, depending on how lucky I am that month. And so it's tough, and it either flies or it dies. Like we used to have this thing where we could watch the music supervisors searching in our system. Oh my God, if they gave you more than 5 seconds, you're lucky. And the horrible part is, a supervisor myself, I'm going too fast. Wrong voice. You are secondary. You have to make their scene look better. And so there's no control over it. Where I work with some people where we're supplying music to 200 Italian grocery stores and things like that. So we're doing sonic branding in Europe. And so I've got 80,000 songs making money there. We're going to do something domestically like that. I'm trying to find where are these other little pockets of money that if they call the music business a river of nickels. How many buckets can we put in the river for you? Yeah. And so I think it's going to be we invented the gig economy. So why not put all those things together? And also doing a referral fee for anyone who signs up for the streaming site. Hey, I'll give you 10% of the profit generated off of that person for the next 12 months. So that you can, for the bigger bands, we can turn their fame into a fortune. So they can make money for doing that, regardless of who they listen to. Again, who's the first person they're going to listen to? Them, But it's a way to make more money when you sleep, when the record sales are not there. And so I think filling that big gaping hole, or at least partially filling it, I think could be really good.
I've always wondered, because I'm a hotel. I've been a hotel manager for 20 years, not in the last 4 years, but I've always wondered, in this day and age where corporate synergy is so predominant.
Yeah.
I've always wondered why either a record label or some sort of anybody in the business that represents bands and artists, why they haven't tried to align with Hilton Hotels or Marriott Hotels.
I tried, and they're not owned like that. So they got these middlemen that I got 2 Hiltons, a Marriott, a this and that. You can't get them.
They're franchised.
Well, not just that, but then they got their salespeople. You can't get to the person that could see the long-term benefit, because they don't care if you're not. They want to treat everybody like the Schwartz wedding. Did you want power? That's going to cost you. You want the internet? Oh, that's very expensive here. And so I've had really bad run-ins, and I would love to do a deal like that. And I had a really good deal going with the Four Seasons in Houston. They really played ball with us, but they were still, even their playing ball was a little bit rough, But I think, it would be really good if somebody would do that kind of thing. Again, they think of musicians being the rock and roll, throw stuff out windows, and that's not what we do anymore, We're
They're
just
reading
trying
books
to,
and they're like playing crosswords.
yeah, exactly. It's like, do you have a place where like a yoga mat? Yeah, definitely not that there aren't the crazy people, but
Right.
not near as many. You can't take your eye off the ball like that, and no one respects you. No, oh, yeah, fight against a man. No, that ain't the way you fight against a man.
Yeah. Even Turnstile is like that. They have a team behind them. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing.
Oh yeah,
So, that's a good segue. So, I always, when you hear people say, oh, there's no good music anymore, blah, blah, blah,
there's tons.
obviously we know the response to that, but do you feel like that kind of, I don't know, like mainstream kind of attitude is kind of waned a little bit, or do you feel like that's still kind of in play?
I think that these kids now, they're finding music all over the world. I don't think they think there's a loss of it. They just think that it's hard to find. But they know there's great music out there. And so we're back to everybody telling their friend about this and that. No, there's great music. And again, there's all these shredder videos of these kids, blazing, there's going to be some players coming up,
Yeah, even just like these movie directors like that are coming up as YouTube like videos, and now they're like making hundreds of $1,000,000 at the box office. It's crazy.
Like they say, love will find a way, so will art.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to end this conversation. Barry, thank you so much for doing this. I look forward to this Springboard Festival this weekend. I obviously cannot attend it, but man, I can't wait to hear about it. And can't wait to keep this connection going, my friend.
Well, thanks, Dogg, and thanks for what you do too. Yeah. Like, given a chance for people to help discover these kind of things, we need a lot more people like you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. So tell everybody the best way to get to this festival, information, all that stuff.
You just go to www.springboardeast.com. All the details will be there. If you're a musician in the DC area, the conference is free, first come, first serve. You can go there and just reach out or show up, and we'll do Thursday and Fridays the conference, and on Saturday we're going down with multiple stages at the Wharf, and we'll be the bands. It's like if you're a fan, it's a wine tasting for music. Every 20, 30 minutes, there's a new band on every stage. We rotate them. The idea is so that Guns N' Roses manager can see every band she wants to see, So we've designed it for that, and you can be the beneficiary.
So is there a band that's, I know it's tough for you to say because it's, picking your children, but is there a band that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There's a really interesting melodic metal band at a DC area that I'm kind of interested to see. Okay. I want to see the guys coming in from Portugal, So there's some people like that I'm always interested to see. Like, I haven't gotten a chance. I haven't been on the selection committee. They've had me. I've been doing all the panels, so I've been hauled away in my. I know what kind of music it is, and it's very diverse. Yeah. Everything from metal to Americana, hip hop. R&B, we've got a little bit of everything. So it made it more challenging to make sure I balanced the speakers in that way. Yeah. And so they're balanced now.
Well, all the way from Houston, Texas. Thank you so much, Mr. Barry Coffing.
Well, thank you, Dogg.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us and helps the bands, artists, and festivals that we feature. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.